Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. Just wanted to give you a heads up. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded several years ago, so some of the phone numbers, email addresses, website links, and time-sensitive information are no longer valid. Please keep that in mind as you listen. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats weekly podcast, episode number 59. I am your host, Dan Matson, once again this week coming back to you. And this is the world's very first, that's right, the very first in the world podcast that's fully 110% dedicated to celebrating the art, craft, history, tradition, and the romance of wooden boats. And I am Wooden Boat Dan, coming to you live from Arlington, Washington. Actually, this may not be live if you listen to this after I record it, which everybody will, so it's not quite live, but it's pretty close. Hope you're having a great week. Thanks for tuning in today. If you're new to the show, I hope you enjoy it. I'd love to get your feedback. If you're a returned customer, you're having fun, you are hooked on wooden boats. My goal with this podcast is really to have some fun talking about wooden boats and encourage people to build a wooden boat, or buy a wooden boat, or varnish a wooden boat, or if nothing else, go to a wooden boat festival. Just get on the wooden boat bandwagon, which kind of got reinvigorated in the 70s. And it's just a lot of fun. There's really cool people, and wooden boats are a blast. And it doesn't have to be a big wooden boat, because there are small wooden boats out there too, so you can take your pick. Today's featured segment is an interview with Sean and Inger Rankins. Sean and Inger live in Port Townsend. I had the privilege of sitting down with them at the Northwest Maritime Center and doing an interview. They own a couple Norwegian boats. Actually, one's a Danish boat and one's Norwegian. They're Spissgatters, which is a fancy term basically for a double-ended boat. And so in the interview, they talk about their boats and their background, and Inger talks about growing up in Norway, what that was like. So it's pretty cool. They also have a business where they make sails and canvas for boats. So stick around for that interview. I think you're going to like it. There used to be a commercial out there years ago, try it, you'll like it. Maybe that was Wrigley's gum. No, that was double your fun. I don't know. Guess it doesn't really matter at this point. Okay, a little update on my canoe. I'm building a 12-foot lap straight canoe. And my last report on it was that the boat's basically built, and my goal is to get 3 coats of epoxy on it, paint the bottom, and varnish the inside and the gunnels. Well, I got all the epoxy on, and then one half of the hull, the epoxy, when I went to sand it, was kind of shredding off like feta cheese. And I'm thinking, this isn't probably a good base for paint. And I'm thinking what happened was I did not clean the amine blush off well enough between coats of epoxy. So I had to sand off the 3 coats of epoxy on half of the hull. So I finished that last night, and I added 1 new coat of epoxy, and now I'm going to go clean it really good and add a 2nd coat and then a 3rd coat. So I feel like I'm back on track. I got a little discouraged there, having all that epoxy on there and having to take some of it off on half of the hull, which is really weird that it only happened on half of the hull. And I don't know if whether it's the starboard or port side of the boat, because it's a symmetrical boat, and I haven't decided which is the aft, the stern of the boat, or the stern and the bow of the boat yet. But anyway, we'll figure that out. So I'm back on track with the canoe, so that's good. This last week, I did get to go to Port Townsend and attend a meeting with some of the folks at the Northwest Maritime Center and other folks that presented at the Wooden Boat Festival September 2012 to talk about how we can improve things for next year. I'm already getting excited about presenting again. I may do a presentation on building my canoe. possibly a presentation on building a scamp, if indeed I do that as I'm planning to in March of 2012 at a scamp camp. Or how to pick your first wooden boat project would be another topic. And so I'm kind of getting psyched up about that. Which brings us to the wooden boat tip of the week. I haven't given a tip for 3 weeks, but I have tip number 8 today, which is to prepare a budget before you start a wooden boat project. Now, there's several reasons to do this. One, there's some obvious, some not so obvious. On the obvious side of things, if you're going to build a boat, you need the money to do it, right? So, boat building is a lot like remodeling your house. You think you can do it for $5,000, and it ends up costing you a lot more. A wooden boat can be that way. You'd think, well, I'll just buy a couple sheets of plywood, some Elmer's glue, and a couple nails and throw this thing together. And yeah, that can be done, but that boat's going to last about a year if you're lucky. But if you use good materials and you buy some tools and you've got supplies, that boat you thought you were going to build for $1,000 might cost you $5,000. But when you get done, you'll have something that'll last a long time, be really beautiful to look at and fun to use. So anyway, this is kind of doing your budget beforehand so you know if you can afford it and you can prepare for it financially. And if you can't afford it, then you can pick an easier, smaller, less complicated project. It does cost more to make sailboats generally because you have to put the rig together. You've got to build the spars or buy spars. You've got to build sails. You've got to do all the rigging. That stuff costs money. So if you want to keep the cost down, you can go simpler, rowboat, small power boat, that type of thing. Anyway, so count the cost ahead of time. Do a budget before you start a project. That way you won't have any big surprises along the way. Or you won't have a half-finished boat in your basement. That's tip number 8. This week we've got 5 new subscribers to the e-newsletter, which is pretty cool actually. And if you would like to subscribe, go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. There's also a button on my homepage you can click and subscribe. I send out a monthly newsletter with links and fun information, occasional video information about what's happening in the Hooked on Wooden Boats world. And here are 5 new subscribers this week: Alan Janicki, Richard Martin, David Johnson, Freddie Estremera. I don't know if I pronounced that right, Freddie. Sorry about that. Charles Cushy. Don't know if I got that right either. But I did connect with Charles after he signed up, and he is a captain of a really cool 47-foot L. Francis Hershoff designed ketch, leeboard ketch that he charters and sails down in Florida. If you want to check out his website and see a picture of his boat, go to pineislandsailing.com. It's really cool. So thanks for signing up, all you guys. Look forward to connecting with you. Okay, we're going to move on to the interview with Sean and Inger Rankins. Take it away, Sean and Inger. It is October 12, 2012, and I'm sitting with Sean and Inger Rankins. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good to have you here today. We're at the Northwest Maritime Center, and it's kind of a cool October day. And Sean's been down in the boat shop here working on the Spissgatt. So, but before we get into that, I'd like to hear a little bit, maybe we could start with you, Inger, about your, I understand you're from Norway. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the boating you did as a youth in Norway and kind of your connection to wooden boats.
Well, growing up, my mom's family lived on an island, and so we always had to be in boats going back and forth to the island. And then, so every summer we were there, and now we have a cabin on that island, and still, have to be in a boat to get to the island, and there was always boats around, and as a young kid, there was always wooden boats around, but then eventually fiberglass came along, and people liked that better because it was easier to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I've been around boats more or less my whole life, but never really sailboats. It was more workboats.
Oh, okay. Lapstrick workboats?
Yeah.
Were they?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that seems like...
Clinker
that was,
boats.
Yeah, what people had, and thinking back, it seems like most people had double enders, but you never really questioned the boats when you just grew up with them. They were just there, and some were big and some were small, and it always depended on how useful they were, more than, what you did with them on your spare time.
Yeah, right. So they were all double enders and workboats, and so you were rowing those boats around?
Yeah.
Rowing them out to the island?
Yeah, rowing, and eventually I remember we got a 3-horsepower engine or outboard on the boat,
really?
and that was big.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. So did you build any of those boats? Did your parents build boats at all, or you
no.
just purchased boats that were built locally?
Yeah, it seems like my grandfather always had boats around, and eventually we bought boats, but I didn't know anyone to build them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Sean, how about you? Where did you grow up, and what were you up to as a youth?
I grew up slightly inland from the coast down in California, the southern part, and my father always had boats. After the war, he actually grew up in Galveston, in the island of Galveston, and he grew up in boats as well. And after the war, he and his buddies, his cronies, they'd always get together and share boats, and eventually when the kids came along, my brothers and my sister, my dad got his own boat, and so we always grew up in boats, but they were always power boats, and they were always old classic woodies that his love was to go out and fish. And in those days it was easy and fun to do, off the California coast, and we grew up doing that. And I got into sailing after high school, actually after university, so kind of late in life, and apprenticed with North Sails in San Diego, and kind of went from there. And that started off in '76.
Then that was a sailmaker?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty famous one. He was still the main owner of that company then, and he was in that loft every day. And so I apprenticed there, and my parents thought it was a waste of a good education.
Oh, really?
But I sort of kept coming back to sailmaking, so all these many years later, I'm still doing it, rigging too, and then Inger runs the marine canvas side of our business.
Mm-hmm. And your business is, what's the name of your business again?
Northwest Sails and Canvas.
Northwest Sails and Canvas, okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the boats that you've owned over the last 5 or 10 years?
Well, mostly since being in Port Townsend, it's been, in the early 90s, we brought back this small Norwegian keel boat. It's a Spissgatt as well. It was built before the war, finished after the war, actually started before the war. And I guess we've had her the longest, and she's out here in front of the Maritime Center.
Okay.
And then there was a whole pile of other little tiny boats from Grandy rowboats and International 14, kind of a vintage one, and now I have an older classic 505, and then we have the Spissgatt that we're restoring downstairs here.
And tell us, for our listeners, what a Spissgatter is.
Well, in Scandinavia, a Spissgatter is a double-ender. So, meaning the boat that had 2 pointy ends, and then one with a stern that is actually called a plattgatter in Norway.
Oh, really?
And so if it's a double-ender, it's a Spissgatter. And then, but this the one we have here is the boat. The sign name is Spissgatter.
It's a class.
Yeah, the class.
From Denmark,
yeah.
of double enders that were very popular right up to the Second World War, and then afterwards they
Were they recreational boats? Is that what they were used for, or racing, or what?
They were definitely recreational, but they had evolved from very distinct work type boats that were from that area, eastern Denmark.
And so the Spissgatt out in the harbor here, what length is that boat?
Just under 20 feet with the rudder on.
Okay. And you brought that over from Norway?
We did, yeah.
Really? You
In a
shipped it
container.
over?
Yeah, we put it in a container with some
Yeah.
other things
Yeah,
when we moved back here.
You either sail it or you row it, and it's kind of open. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Probably be a rough ocean crossing that boat, huh?
Yeah. A little wet.
We don't do it today, but we used to travel quite a bit in that boat up
Did
to
ya?
the islands, and
Really?
yeah,
Get a little bit wet?
we're getting a little spoiled now. We want a boat with a cabin on it, so that's why we got this larger Spissgatt.
Yeah. Very cool. And what year was that boat built?
Again, from
40s.
what we found out when we bought her, she was in construction right up to where the war came to Norway, and then they put it away. And
Okay.
then they finished it just after the war. So I guess you would say she was 1945. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is that? What kind of planking is on that boat? What wood?
Yeah, red pitch pine. It's Norwegian pitch pine. It's very rot resistant. Great boat building wood. They actually built everything out of it over there because it just was so rot resistant. It's close to longleaf yellow pine, which we find in the southeast of this country.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So
On
that,
oak. Yeah,
has that boat had to have much restoration or anything over the years? Or?
Well, it has a bit of a history. We restored it when we bought it just because it had been in storage for 10 years, and we kind of had a rotten mast, so we built a new one, and things like that. And then we moved back to Norway for a while and left it in the hands of a friend, and fortunately didn't take care of it, and so there was a restoration after that.
Oh, really?
And then we lost her in a race out here on the bay, and she sank and broke in half on the bottom of the bay, so we found her and raised her and brought the planks over from Norway after a trip that Inge took over there, and we rebuilt her, and so I guess we've restored her 3 times.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness! She
Yeah,
sank out here in the harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we made patterns for the planks that I took with me, and then I had a friend there that had a friend that had a mill, so he had some wood, and we laid out on each plank he brought out, laid out the pattern to see if he could find one that would work, and eventually got enough planks to ship back here so we can get the same wood in the boat.
Oh,
when we repaired
really?
it. Yeah.
The red
Yeah.
pitch pine, huh?
Yeah. So.
Very cool.
So it was kind of interesting because when they shipped it, they sent it to Vancouver.
That's
And
where
then-
we had to go
Yeah,
and
so
pick it
Sean
up.
had to go and pick it up in Vancouver, all the planks, and bring them back. And then when he come across the border, they asked him why he was bringing them across the border, and he told them the story about the boat and where they came from. And so they were so impressed, they totally forgot to charge him for the tax.
Oh,
To bring
really?
it in the country.
Well, actually, they didn't forget. I think they said, well, that sounds like a restoration. I can't remember the reason, but they were really nice that day.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So when did you buy that boat again? In the
1990, I think.
91.
91.
91.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that was when we were over there.
Yeah. And that's a sloop rig boat.
Yes.
Is it? Okay.
Well, actually, we've changed the rig now since that wreck. When we restored her, we kind of gave her the late 1800s rig, which is a gaff with a topsail on its own yard and a bowsprit that we ship that goes out. So it's
Oh, really?
got 2 head sails, topsail, and a gaff main now.
Yeah.
And we also have a spinnaker for it.
So what's the effect of changing the rig to that? What does that really do?
After the restoration, everything broke, the other mast and the boom and everything, and then we just started having old spars handed over to us from other friends, and we just started whittling them down fit, and we just decided to stop racing the boat and maybe just have it more for fun and make it look a little bit more historical.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the main reason.
Yeah. Cool. So now you've got another Spissgatter that's in the boat shop here at the Northwest Maritime Center. Tell me about that boat.
Well, that's a pretty famous class of boats coming out of the early part of the last century. around 1910 or so, probably, anyway, before the First World War, people started using these boats more for recreational purposes, and some of these Danish Spissgatters in the area around Copenhagen actually started showing up. They started kind of gleaning from the old designs of these workboats that kind of evolved towards ballasted boats with bigger rigs. And then they, sometime after, in the 20s, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, so the dates might be off of some, but after the First World War, they definitely wanted to class the boats to make them easier to compete on the water, and they went through a consortium of designers and ideas, and they came up with different classes like 26, 30, 38, 45, and I think it was 50 square meter classes, and ours is a 38 square
That was
meter.
sail area?
Yeah, based on sail area, but there was a measurement rule that had to be, it was pretty restrictive as far as certain ways that the boats had to be built and rigged to be able to compete. So if you were going to class your boat, you had to follow those criteria when you were building the boat from the plans. And there were lots of boats that weren't built that way, meaning they weren't going to be used that way, so they never got classed, even though they might have been built to the plan. But those that got classed were probably the more correctly built ones to the rules. Mm-hmm. And that's we have one of those.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said it was a 38
square meter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the size. And of all those classes, that was the biggest class, meaning the most boats that were built. Mm-hmm. And we have number 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What length is that boat?
Measures just under 26 feet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very Pacific, like I said, and it's interesting how between the classes there's not this large difference in length overall or width overall or depth or anything like that, but it is amazing what happens in a boat with just another foot of length and another plank and freeboard, and things change. You can see if you look closely, our boat's definitely smaller than Casey Cronkite's, who you said you interviewed a week ago.
Yeah.
That's the next size bigger.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few Spissgatters in our water.
Really?
In our waters. They were brought over, some in bulk and some individually after the war. And ours came over with a group of 6 boats. And they're all sailing today, except for maybe one.
So they were sailed over?
No, they were shipped.
Oh, they were shipped.
They were freighted over. And they all, the group that ours came with went to Vancouver. There was some brothers that shipped them over. One of them had spent time in Europe, I believe in the NATO forces after the war, and I could think in the area of Copenhagen, and ended up with one of those boats, and he loved it so much he brought it back. And then when he was living in Vancouver, sailing it, people were really curious about those boats and encouraged him to bring more back. Yeah. And so he went back and
was he bringing new boats over? Or
no, these were old boats built. These boats are all from the 30s, pretty much.
Yeah.
Ours is designed in 35, but it was registered in 38, so he built it 36 to 38.
Yeah. And what year did it come over here?
In the 50s.
okay.
I think I have it in my log. It's like 55 or something like that.
Yeah.
Can't remember exactly.
And when did you guys buy this boat?
7 years ago.
2005.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you bought it, what kind of condition was it in, Inger?
Well, I thought it was okay.
She thought that about our house too.
You didn't do a complete survey, huh?
Well, Sean had been watching it, been in Hadlock at the dock, and the former owner wasn't taking too well care of it, so Sean was making sure it didn't sink in the dock.
Oh.
But we thought it was I thought it was because rain and stuff was coming in, and so we ended up buying it, and Sean said, "Oh, this is going to be great. We're just going to take you out of the water, scrape the outside, and paint it back and put it in the water and go sailing.
Well, that's exactly what we've done. There's just a whole bunch of other things that happened in there too.
So I said, "Oh, sure, that sounds perfect. I can handle that." So obviously that didn't happen. We took it out of the water and got it in a friend shop and in the woods, and we started scraping. And Sean said, "Well, since we're scraping the outside, why don't we scrape the inside?" So he took everything out from the inside, and since we said everything out, why don't we, just do this and that and change the frames? And the job was getting bigger and bigger, and more things were coming out.
Well,
of
the closer you look, the more problems you find, and we weren't interested in having a boat go out from underneath us again, so we thought we'd take care of some of the issues.
Yeah. So you're still working on that, basically.
Well, actually, we've been scratching on her for the last 7 years in a friend's shop, and we're both so busy, so it was kind of on weekends and sometimes during the holidays and stuff. And so a lot happened over the last 7 years, but now we moved it in here to work with Robert Darcy, just a friend of ours.
Oh, okay.
To just really move her towards the water. It's time to do that.
Yeah.
So there's this concerted effort going on right now. It's amazing what's happened in the last 2 weeks. Just being able to come down here every day and some evenings too. And
so you expect to have her in the water next year then?
well, we hope early in the year to be able to launch her. That's the goal. But the reality might be we're further along than it looks. Things are going pretty smooth.
Yeah. So how are the condition of the spars and sails on the boat?
I gave all the sails, the spar, and all the rigging away after we got the boat because somebody had changed the rig. And they weren't really that well made anyway because there was problems with the boat in the past. She lost her rig out in the Straits of Georgia.
Oh.
Bumped off a freighter. And so I decided to design her back to her original plans. And so we've built a new mast, and all the hardware is in process now. Wow. Working with a friend of mine, Ed Luchard, the boat builder, fabricator. And the rigging will happen hopefully this winter, and the sails are designed and cut, ready for me to build this winter. And then Inger will do the marine canvas work, and so that's all probably going to happen when she's hopefully resting in her slip this winter, getting used to being back in her natural environment. We'll work on above the deck stuff.
Okay. What construction method did you use for the spars?
Well, according to the class rules, you weren't allowed to build a hollow spar.
Oh.
And not that we were really constrained by that today or anything. But we did build it. It's pretty much, you can call it a hollow spar. It's all spruce. Very few laminated parts of it. I got some pretty long pieces. And Kid Africa built the mast for us.
Oh, I see.
And it does have a channel that's open down the middle of the mast, so we can run wire up to the masthead and the spreaders, and so it's a teardropped, tapered spar. Yeah.
What length is the mast on that boat?
47 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, from the deck level, it's like 44 or 43 and a half or something. Anyway, they're pretty tall. Spars.
Cool. Very cool. So,
big mainsail.
Yeah. What other boats have been interesting to you over the years? Anything else come to mind that you've sailed on or spent time working on? Maybe you've built sails for or canvas?
For me, there's too many.
Interest that we would like to have had,
or boats that you've worked on because of your sail making and canvas work.
Well, I actually think every boat is interesting. Because I always think it's interesting to find out why the owner of the boat, why he or she picked that particular boat. Because sometimes you see a boat you don't really like, but obviously the person bought it, saw some beauty in that boat, and that's why he or she got it. Yeah. So, and I don't think I ever really looked for a boat. I just I like boat. I do definitely like wooden boats better than fiberglass boats, but I think they all have their beauty in themselves.
Okay. Yeah. What is it about wooden boats that you especially like?
Well, it's just warmer. They're just much warmer, and you just feel there's more life in them. Yeah. So I mean, you can see some nice fiberglass boats that have beautiful decks in the house, and there's a lot of wood on it. Then I definitely like that better than the ones that just have mainly fiberglass.
Right.
And but yeah, it's just much warmer feeling. Yeah.
How about you, Sean?
I feel the same. I've been around all types of boats in my career. Not a whole lot around cement boats, but definitely wood, metal, aluminum, fiberglass, carbon. And I have to say that for the same reason that Inger mentioned, as far as owning a boat, or one that we would travel on like we hope to do with this boat, I like wood. It's so the insulation of it is nice. They're quieter down below because of that. I think also that warmth that Inger's talking about that you get, and it is a living thing still. It's just amazing.
It's got a life of its own, doesn't it?
And it's a medium that I definitely feel more comfortable working in as far as doing the maintenance or the building of or the restoration of. Modern construction and techniques for restoring and building boats is something I'm interested in too, and I'm learning more and more of that, but that's more in my skiffs and things like that. But definitely the wooden construction methods are something that just comes easier to me to do and understand. And
have you built boats before?
Only a couple.
What have you built before?
They've been small boats, fairings. So I built a fairing once, and it was my friend Jay Smith.
That's a Norwegian boat, right?
Actually,
Scandinavian.
The Norwegians have their fairings. That means 4 oars.
Okay. Okay.
But Jay's particular types that he was really fond of building are from the Faroe Islands.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And but very similar. Yeah.
So you built a couple of those,
and I've done way more restoration work and more maintenance than new construction.
Yeah. So how did you learn your woodworking skills?
Before
that's different than sailmaking.
Yeah, definitely. And I've done that probably further back in my life. I just always liked working with wood. I've made my living as a woodworker for many years too.
Really? Doing what kind of stuff?
Cabinetry, some furniture work, timber framing, again restoration in older homes, but I kept coming back to sailmaking, and
that's kind of your passion, huh?
Yeah, well, they both are, but definitely that's the one that's driving me more to these days.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, definitely like to work with my hands.
How about you, Inger? How long have you been doing canvas work?
Well, I've been doing it since 1990. Sean was working at Port Townsend Sales, and across the bay when Hudson was Alan Black with the Artful Dodger. And she asked me one day if I knew how to sew, and I said, well, I've been sewing my whole life because I always liked to make my own clothes, and when I was really young I would make the clothes for my dogs on a sewing machine. And
oh, really?
yeah, so she asked if I would like to come and try out, and I did, and she liked what I could do, and then she kind of trained me, and I worked with her till 1999 when I started my own business.
Wow.
So I more or less done it as long as I've been here.
Yeah. Very
and I
cool.
still really enjoy it. It's fun. Making things, creating things, and
so what kind of parts do you make for boats and that are made out of canvas typically?
Well, anything. It could be anything: sail covers, sail bags, boat covers. My favorite actually is big full boat covers. The big covers are really fun to make.
Sail covers?
No, actually boat covers.
Oh, the boat covers.
Yeah, full boat covers for
the
a
full boat covers.
For a sailboat.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing of
Really?
all the things I do.
Yeah.
But I would do nearly everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Dodgers, enclosure for power boats.
Marine upholstery.
I do cushions.
Oh, you do marine upholstery too?
Yeah,
for
but
interior?
I don't do like carpets and ceilings. That's the only thing I don't do. And I leave the sailmaking to Sean. But so they all a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you share the space together down above the Wooden Boat School? Is that where you both work? Or?
No, that's where Sean is. I actually work out of my home, or our home.
Oh, you do?
Have part of the basement set up to my
For your
shop.
canvas
yeah,
work.
Yeah. So I have one sewing machine and a 16-foot long table.
Mm-hmm.
And I started there when our son started school, so I could work and be home when he got home from school.
Oh, cool.
And then now I'm so used to being there, so.
Yeah, that's nice.
She does share the bigger space down there in Port Hadlock for bigger jobs, though, and when she's teaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it's what's nice being in town is that I don't even need a car to go to the boats unless I'm bringing a big frame. So I mainly just ride my bike with a bike trailer when I go to the boats.
So you live pretty close to town here?
Yeah, we live uptown. Yeah, so can just put everything in the bike trailer and ride down to the marinas. And,
Nice.
Yeah, it is
I'm
really
jealous.
nice.
I wish I could do that. I drive 30 miles to work in a car.
Yeah, actually I never commuted in my whole life. Or the
Really?
longest was 30 minutes by bike. And that's true my whole life. I never driven a car really to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a nice classic wooden, of course. Not a runabout, but something that you can get out of the weather. Because I would love to commute to work by boat.
Well, yeah, you could, couldn't you?
And be able to do that in any time of the year in any kind of weather. And I don't think I'd have any problem finding people to go with me and help with the gasoline expenses or the diesel expenses, because a lot of us do live on this side of the bay that work and teach down there. So
Down in Port Hadlock.
But
Is that like 7 or 8 miles by water?
probably, yes, I think so.
Yeah. I did it by bike.
It's like 12 miles driving, and riding a bicycle is tough for me because you're just sucking exhaust the whole way. And I did do that once or twice and found that to be not very much fun.
Yeah, I
But
did.
it would be fun to shoot across the bay on an efficient
Yeah,
boat. I think there's a place for that in the future.
definitely. That could be your next project.
You never know.
Is your son enjoy boating too, or
Just gotta win a lotto.
No, not really.
no? Okay.
No, he decided that wasn't his thing.
Really? Yeah. Oh, everybody, all the kids are different, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
We have 5 boys, and a couple of them are interested in boats, and the rest aren't. That's
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, boating was a passion for both of us, but
He actually
We're-
wouldn't mind having a fiberglass powerboat that was going really fast instead of a wooden sailboat that was going
Yeah.
slow.
onto the dark side.
Some would go 30 or 40, and you could wakeboard behind. That type of thing. Yeah.
But our passion's driven by a lot of things, and the hardest part's always the financial side of things, because we're just of modest means, so we always end up with these wrecked boats and a wrecked house, and it takes like forever to realize our dreams. Like this Spissgatt, it's
Yeah.
going on 7 years. Most of it because of economics, but
Yeah. It takes time.
we'll realize that dream too. It just takes time.
Yeah. Wow. I'd love to know when you get ready to launch her again. I'd come over and take some pictures and
Okay,
maybe
well,
do a little follow-up.
we'll probably do one of the, what do they call that? A soft launching, kind of stealth.
Really? Not too much fanfare.
That's right.
To make sure everything is okay.
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to make a big thing about it.
Yeah. So for folks that are listening that are interested in canvas work or sail making, can you give me your contact information?
Well, I think the easiest way to contact either of us is through our business email,
Okay.
and that's at nwcanvas@olympus.net. Olympus spelled OLYMPUS.
Okay.
.net.
Northwest Canvas at olympus.net.
Yeah, and you can get Ingrid at her canvas shop, or me in the sail loft and rigging shop down there in Port Hadlock, and she's in Port Townsend.
Okay.
Yeah, and we keep thinking about getting a website up one of these days, and maybe we'll do it this winter. A lot on our plate right now, but
Yeah. And then, Sean, on your sail making, do you specialize in anything particular, or you make all kinds of sails for all kinds of boats, or what's your...
yes to the latter.
Okay.
I've I have a passion for things very traditional as well as things very modern, and most things in between. So I'm not married to any one type, and I actually enjoy both. And I think I've probably enjoyed my time on the bay here these many years. I've enjoyed helping some clients and friends locally, especially with classic wooden boats, especially ones that were actually meant to sail well, and many of them to race, to build sails that were not only fast and efficient, but also looked like they belonged on, the boat itself, like, having that classic look, which is a fun niche these days, trying to keep things to look appropriate, but yet still, sail well and be efficient.
Right.
So that's a niche I've sort of enjoyed.
Yeah. Okay.
Over the years.
Probably make sails for people all over the place, right?
Actually, we do, and we teach sailmaking too, and rigging and marine canvas work. And so, lately, in the last years at the Northwest School of Wooden Boat Building, we have a winter quarter that teaches that exclusively, and we take on some rather large projects, like for tall ships. And we had a friend.
You did the adventurous sails.
Yeah, we'll be doing some more work for them this winter.
Yeah, cool.
And the Lamy ships down in California, and also they have two brigantines, the XC and Irving Johnson, and then there's the Ocean Institute. They have a program running down there in Dana Point, and they have the Spirit of Dana Point. We built their sails through education, and both the ships for Grays Harbor, the Lady Washington, Hawaiian Chieftain.
Oh, yeah. I know Les Bolton down there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we built all their sails in one winter quarter for both ships in that class.
Was John also offer something from at the sail loft that's kind of unique for a lot of sailmakers, that people can come and build their own sails?
Oh, really?
So yeah, because sometimes people don't have the money to buy a sail, but they have time, so they can work with him, and he will set them up, and then they do all the seaming themselves. They show them
can
how
save a
to
little bit of money that way. And
we're trying to keep it in an educational realm sometimes of the year, and we save that for the fall months usually.
But also you let people come in that have nothing to do with education. They just come in and they do it themselves.
Private people for their own projects.
Fun.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind, because I've got a 14-foot semi-dory that I finished building in '97 that I've been using, and I built the centerboard trunk and the centerboard, and I built the rudder, and I've never done the spars or the sails for it.
Yeah, we'll help you out with that.
I want to do that sometime. So
that's what we're there for.
Let me come down and see it. Well, very good. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do this today. Any parting comments for people listening that maybe don't know much about wooden boats, or any words of encouragement or advice or parting comments?
Well, it's always take good care of everything, and of course you can always take good care of things by having a nice canvas cover. But it's, you see, if you maintain your things, if it's your boat or your sails or your covers, they're going to last them much longer. Yeah. So I always recommend for people, when they have a boat they don't use in the winter, to take as much off the boat they can. And that can be for their, if they have a power boat with a full enclosure and they're not going to use the boat all winter, take the whole thing off, because then they're going to last them so much longer. Or a lot of things, they don't need to sit on the boat in the winter. So just kind of learn to winterize your boat.
Yeah, definitely. No matter what your interests may be, whether it's in wooden boats or something more modern, even contemporary built wooden boats, it's all about maintenance. Once you have your boat up and running, if you let the maintenance slide, it doesn't matter what it's made out of, it's still going to be work, maybe drudgery. So, like Inge said, probably the best thing between you and a lot of time and expense would be learning to keep on the maintenance and cover things up. Get cozy with a marine canvas worker of your choice. But the last thing I would like to say about being on the water in general, I think it's important for all our small communities in this part of the country to keep striving for easy and affordable access to our waters. And it's getting more and more difficult to afford to have a boat. And a lot of the marinas are sort of gearing away from having access for smaller boats. And that's how most people actually get into boating, is through smaller boats, right? And work their way up.
Yeah.
And I'd sure hate to see the next generation miss out on all the fun we've had.
Yeah.
Because we let something kind of slip away and only be accessible by those who are of better and more affluent means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, thanks again for your time today. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Sean and Inger, for taking the time to do that interview. It was really fun talking to you guys about your boat ventures. And you've got two really cool boats, two Spissgatters. And best to you in fully restoring your 38 square meter Spissgatter that's at the Maritime Center there. What a cool project. And I didn't ask you the name of your boats, but anyway, if you get a chance when you listen to this, shoot me an email, would you, and let me know. I'd like to know that. Okay, next week is an interview with Robert Darcy. Robert is the captain of the schooner Martha, which is a really sweet schooner designed by B.B. Crowninshield from New York. I believe this boat is 68 feet, and it's really a fun story about how this boat was built, who built it, why it was built the way it was, why it's the color it is. It's some really fun stuff. Had a great talk with Robert, so tune in again next week if you would. Please connect with me by email, dan@hookedonwoodenboats.com. Subscribe to my e-news list, hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. With each podcast that I publish, I also put show notes on my website along with pictures, so be sure and check that out. And if you'd like to, you can leave comments there under the post under the show notes. You can also connect with me on Facebook if you look for Wooden Boat Dan. And if you'd like to send pictures and stories via email, that would be really cool. So those are ways to connect. I'd love to get emails from folks and find out what's happening out in your neck of the woods, which could be anywhere in the world, actually, which is pretty fun. If you would like to support the show, one way to do that, if you make purchases from Amazon, go to my website to the resources page. Click on any product from Amazon, and when you get to Amazon, go find what you want to buy, purchase it, and I'll get paid a 4% commission, which is pretty cool. You can also, on my homepage, click on the Jamestown Distributors button, which will take you to their website, and they've got a lot of really fun boat building and marine supplies, great prices and shipping. I purchased there myself. I get paid a commission on that. And also, if you go to iTunes and you like the podcast, please give me a 5-star review. I think last time I checked, I had about 21 5-star reviews. So thanks for tuning in today. It's been great talking to you. Have a great week. Again, I would really encourage you to get out and build a boat or buy a boat. Start small, makes it simple, easy, a little bit less expensive. And wooden boats are just a blast. I mean, I've been messing around with wooden boats since about 1971. No, actually, that's when I built my first boat. Been boating in wooden boats since I was a kid in the 60s. And have just about finished my 5th boat building project, wooden boat project. And it's just a blast. So go out and go for it. If you need some encouragement or have questions or anything, shoot me an email, dan@hookedonwoodenboats.com, or call me on my cell phone, man, 425-319-7800. Just gave my cell phone to the world. That's all right. Thanks again. Have a great week. Keep the sunny side up and the barnacled side down. Wooden Boat Dan over and out. We will talk again soon. Bye-bye.